as King Robert I Baratheon proved upon the waters of the Trident when he struck down the Crown Prince Rhaegar Targaryen during his rebellion against the Iron Throne, and as the many Lords of House Baratheon and the Storm Kings of House Durrandon before them showed, the men of the Stormlands are hardy and fierce and skilled in war as any in the Seven Kingdoms. The Stormlands is a hard and hostile place to live. Thus, the men and women who call it home have been moulded by it, creating a hard and tough people, ones any foe would be taken aback by. The longbows of the Dornish marches are especially famed even in the far east of Essos, with many of the most famous bowmen of the songs and histories are said to hail from the Dornish marches and the borderlands of the Reach. Fletcher Dick, the notorious outlaw of the Kingswood Brotherhood, was born in a village near the Marcher Castle of Stonehelm, and is held by many to be the finest archer who ever drew a bow in the long history of Westeros. However, depending on where you are when you ask this question depends on the answer you'll get. If you asked in the Reach or the Westerlands, then they would also surely claim the title. House Blackwood of Raventree Hall in the Riverlands are also famed for their skill with longbows, but even so, only Fletcher Dick's name is known so widely across the world. The Stormlands have also produced their share of great sailors, while House Velaryon of Driftmark and House Redwine of the Arbor, and of course the men of the Iron Islands, overshadow the skill of the sailors from the Stormlands. But when it comes to sailing through dangerous storms and rough waters, even the men of these renowned houses would wish for sailors from the Stormlands in their crew. Storm's End itself, looming over the great cliffs of Durran's Point and the treacherous rocks of Shipbreaker Bay, offers no safe anchorage for either warships or merchant ships, hence the name of Shipbreaker Bay. But in the time of the Storm Kings, war fleets were often maintained on Massey's Hook, Estamont, and in the towns and fishing villages along the Sea of Dawn, in places where the borders of the kingdom were most at risk. Other monarchs preferred to dock their fleets on the western shore of Tarth, where that great island's mountain helped to shelter them from the storms that often raged through the narrow sea. The Sapphire Isle, as some call it, is ruled by House Tarth of Evenfall Hall, an old family of Andal descent that boasts of ties to House Durrandon and the Storm Kings of old, the Baratheons, and more recently to House Targaryen. Once kings in their own right, the Lords of Tarth still style themselves as the Evenstar, a title that they claim goes back into the Dawn Ages of Westeros. Even in the modern era, it is not an uncommon sight to see the warships of the royal fleet and traders alike seeking shelter in the waters of Tarth before making their journey south through the Stepstones, or back up north towards Blackwater Bay and beyond. Many of the people of Tarth, highborn and low alike, claim descent from the legendary hero Sir Galadon of Morn, who was said to wield a sword called the Just Maid, given to him by the Seven themselves. Given the role that the Just Maid plays in Sir Galadon's tale, Maester Hubert, in his Kin of the Stag, has suggested that Galadon of Morn was no rude warrior of the Age of Heroes, turned into a knight by the singers 1,000 years later, but an actual historical figure of more recent times. Hubert also notes that Morn was a royal seat of petty kings on the eastern coast of Tarth, until the Storm Kings made them submit, but that its ruins indicate that the site was made by the Andals and not the first men. The fiercest fighters in the Stormlands, and perhaps in all of Westeros, are undoubtedly the men in the Dornish marches, who are said to be born with a sword in their hand, and often boast of learning to fight even before they learn to walk. Theirs is a task of protecting the realm of the Storm Kings from the ancient enemies to the west, the Kings of House Gardner, and especially the south, from the Red Sands of Dawn. The castles of the Dornish marches are among the strongest of the realm, and for a good reason, for seldom has a generation passed when they have not faced some new attack. They were established to create a bulwark against incursions from the Dornish and the Kings of the Reach. The Marcher Lords are duly proud of their history as key defenders of the realm of the Storm Kings and later House Targaryen, and many have ballads and tales of their valour. Amongst the sternest of the Marcher seats is Stonehelm, the ancient seat of House Swan, with its watchtowers of black and white stone, which stands above the waters of the River Slane, with its rapids, pools and waterfalls. Blackhaven is home to House Dondarrion, with its forbidding black basalt walls and bottomless dry moat, and Night Song of the Singing Towers, where House Karen has held sway for many centuries. Though styled as Lords of the Marches, the Karens hold no domain over the other Marcher lords. They count themselves the oldest of the Marcher houses, however, a claim that the Swans dispute, and have always been prominent in leading the defence of the Stormlands. Famous for their warriors and singers alike, House Karen has had a storied history that stretches back to the Age of Heroes. The Karens are wont to say that the nightingales of their house have been seen on thousands of battlefields, and the histories show that Night Song has been besieged no less than 37 times in the last 1,000 years. As the Marchers are famed for their strong castles and their ballads, the Rainwood is known for its rain, its silences, and its wealth of fir and wood and amber. Here the trees rule, and the castles often seem as if they have grown from the earth instead of being built by man. But the knights and lords of the Rainwood have roots as deep as the trees that shelter them, and have often proved themselves steadfast in battle, strong, stubborn, and immovable.